All right, well, welcome. My name is Jack Smiley, and I founded the Southeast Michigan Land Conservancy, gosh, almost 40 years ago, 1988. And I also founded the Michigan Land Conservancy back in 2011. So Ken asked me to talk a little bit about conservancies and how they're important. And my perspective is we wouldn't really need land conservancies at all if government was doing its job better. But there's always a way to help. But I wish that Michigan would have a land policy. Michigan, probably the biggest failure I see in state government is they don't have any overall land strategy of what land needs to be protected, what land is better developed. Michigan is still subsidizing urban sprawl, which I view as the most harmful environmental aspect of living in an urban area. It's destroying some of the best farmland in Michigan and also laying waste to communities that should be redeveloped. And we're finally seeing some redevelopment in Detroit and some of the inner communities, but it would be much better if the state wasn't still subsidizing developers to move further and further out from the urbanized area. So I got involved with land conservation at an early age, I guess. I grew up in Nankin Township, which was a precursor to the city of Westland. And we had a lot of farms and wetlands and open space around my house. And later I lived in the city, but the problem was I didn't move, the city did. So the countryside that I loved as a kid was lost. And over the years, I was always involved in fighting to save particular woods and wetlands that were being threatened with development. And one thing I noticed is even if you stop one development and a few years later, another developer will come along and usually destroy the same property that you were trying to protect before. So that's why I thought it was important to start the Conservancy, which I had always had an interest in doing. And we've been a very small conservancy, the Southeast Michigan Land Conservancy, but we have over the years protected, I think, upwards of 4,000 acres in Southeast Michigan. And I tallied it up. I think I've been involved and protected over 5,000 acres, which is, I guess, nice, but it's still a drop in the bucket as to what needs to be done. So with that, if you've ever looked at the state of Michigan transportation maps over the years, you'll notice that each year the blobs of urbanization grow with each successive year. And that's been particularly the case in Southeast Michigan. In Southeast Michigan, we've really lost a lot of great land to urban sprawl. Like I said, we're destroying the countryside and the city in one fell swoop. And in the last 15 years, it's gone even more than what's depicted on the map. So there's a small area in between Detroit and Ann Arbor, which I've been focusing on, and that's in Superior Township. And over the last 30 years, we've protected a good amount of land in Superior Township. We've protected over 3,400 acres, partnering with the City of Ann Arbor Greenbelt Program and Washtenaw County Parks. We've been able to purchase all the properties in green are lands that have been purchased for nature preserves and parks. And the properties in yellow are private farmlands that are protected with conservation easements. And the area in red, that little square there, a half mile by half mile, that's the most recent land purchase I made through the Michigan Land Conservancy. And we're hoping to transfer that to Superior Township, hopefully in the next few months. So we do have a nice corridor there. It's a great area for hiking, bird watching, nature study. And if you haven't been out to Superior Township, there's a lot of great preserves that you'll be excited to explore. There's some really nice areas there. So, but with that, I'd like to talk mostly about Sibley Prairie. This came up very recently in August when the property was up for sale. I've known about Sibley Prairie for a long time. Back in 1994, in 95, the Michigan Natural Features Inventory did a study of Sibley Prairie, and they ranked it as the highest Lake Plain prairie remnant in the state. And they had surveyed 53 sites, and it had a rather astounding floristic quality index, 69.95. That's on a scale of 1 to 100, and anything over 40 is considered outstanding. And it was really noted for the rare species. Since it's a very rare habitat, some of the most threatened species that we have in Michigan still reside there. We've had at least 16 threatened, endangered, and special concern species. All these species share except for the bumblebee, which is endangered. All the other ones are state threatened. And these are all special concern species. So the Lake Plain Prairie is a globally rare ecosystem. It's ranked G2 on a global scale, imperiled, and the state ranking is S1 or critically imperiled. And we have lost over 99% of Lake Plain Prairie to agriculture and development. So even though these remaining areas are very small, they're very important to protect. Also, which was news to me, it's a very key area for bats. Recent bat studies have shown there's 7 different bat species there. And I've only seen 4 species myself. I've seen big brown bats, little brown bats, hoary bats, and eastern red bats. But they found 7 in just a short order of acoustic surveying. So the property that came up for sale was 440 acres back in August. And that was rather alarming because that's the largest property left within the Sibley Prairie complex. So fortunately, we got quite a few groups together to form the Save Sibley Prairie Coalition. Sierra Club Southeast Michigan Group is active participants. We're really pleased about that. And we have other groups that are helping out, trying to save this prairie. Fortunately, we were able to stop the auction. I negotiated an option to buy, which gives us until the end of next year to purchase the property, but at a cost of $6 million. It actually appraised for higher than that, so we feel it's a safe price or a satisfactory price, but it's still a rather large price to try to raise $6 million. So we've got our work cut out for us. So Sibley Prairie is located in southern Wayne County in Brownstown Township. The square mile depicted here is where the property is located, not far from Metro Airport. And the Sibley Prairie complex is mostly in about 4 square miles. And there's some small remnants outside of that area, but most of it is in a 4 square mile area. And that's all we have left from the thousands and thousands of acres that used to spread from Detroit down to Toledo. There are already a few small parcels that are already protected. In the upper left is a 40-acre parcel that's protected with a conservation easement. And then the DNR owns 2 parcels just to the east of that. And the Southeast Michigan Land Conservancy in the south part along West Road owns 39 acres with about 2 acres of prairie. Also, the state land is designated as part of the Brownstown Prairie State Wildlife Area. And they have designated boundaries, which include the Fritz property, which we are trying to acquire now. So the prairie patches in the property are relatively small, but there's a good mosaic of wetlands and forest. It's a really tremendous habitat, a rich mosaic of habitats. So here's a map depicting the wetlands on the property. And then Dennis Albert was the former lead ecologist back in 1995 who surveyed Sibley Prairie. And he wrote this in a letter to Governor Whitmer. Within a few hundred feet of busy Telegraph Road, one could be surrounded by a magical garden of asters, goldenrods, lupin, ironweed, milkweeds, mountain mint, coreopsis, Indian plantain, prairie dock, lobelia, and many more, within a matrix of tall Indian grass, cordgrass, and big blue stem. A gardener's delight, emulated in many of the world's most famous botanical gardens. So we've been using that quote. So it's probably just a good to show you some photos of Sibley Prairie and some of the species that can be found there. Here's a field of little blue stem and asters. And here's a nice field of dense blazing star. You have to go down at the right time of the year because some of these don't bloom for too long. Some of the fields are very patchy and small, and there's a lot of trees in the area. Once we acquire it, we may take out some of the trees, but it is good to have a mix of the prairies and the forest interspersed. So you've got ironweed and goldenrod on the left and sneezeweed on the right. I'm not sure what the middle one is. I didn't take these photos. So we've got a good field of goldenrod and asters. And of course, it's not just the prairies, it's all the wildlife that abound in this property. At 440 acres, it's one of the largest natural areas remaining in Wayne County. And so even if it weren't prairie, it'd be important to protect this site. Got some prairie dock on the right, blazing star and ironweed and coneflowers, and got a green gray tree frog. And there's a wide variety of asters in the prairie. So it's really a botanist's delight to go down there. Here you have some Monarda in the field. Actually, most of the property is forested. It's some nice forested wetlands. And we haven't yet surveyed for salamanders, but we suspect there's a rich amphibian population on this property. And we'll be glad to be able to more fully document what is there. So Sibley Prairie is a very unique spot, a very rare spot. And we hope we can, working together, get this preserved. We have to raise $6 million by the end of next year. We're off to a slow start, but a good start. We've raised about 300,000 in pledges and donations so far. And we knew it would be slow to start with because we're just starting to reach out to some of the foundations and major donors. So we do have a flyer. If anybody wants to take a few tonight to post at community billboards someplace, I have some that you can take. And if you want to make a donation, you can click on the QR code and send you right to our website.
You can put some of those flyers too out on the table.
Sure.
And then can you mention some of the places where they're available? I've seen the emails, but I can't remember.
Well, we have some at different locations. In Grosse Pointe Woods, we have Wild Birds Unlimited. In Woodhaven, Wild Birds Unlimited as well. There's some at the U of M Dearborn and Urban Interpretive Center. We should have some soon at the Friends of the Rouge office in Plymouth. And the Wild Birds Unlimited in Ann Arbor will be hosting some. And Redford Library has some in Redford.
And you can also download a digital copy from
on the website. You can download the copy and just print one off if you want to just post one or two. But if you want to pick up copies to post at more places, you'd certainly welcome the support.
Are there questions from the audience? Anyone questions about? Okay.
Oh, yes. Okay. Is someone's been interested in this thing? I was wondering what this land was zoned as when you bought it, because, if it was zoned industrial, then you wouldn't have had a chance and somebody would have bought it and built. So was it like agricultural?
We haven't bought it yet. We have an option to buy.
Okay.
We actually paid $1 million for the option.
Okay.
So we're heavily invested in this. It's zoned higher density residential.
Uh-huh.
Some is zoned commercial, and some had been zoned industrial, but I think they lowered that zoning, but there's still a lot of commercial frontage. And the commercial frontage alone appraised for over 3 million.
Yeah,
It's right on Telegraph Road.
right, right. Okay.
So it's, if it was a little further away, it would have been cheaper, but its location, its size and its zoning made it a pretty valuable property, even with the amount of wetlands that they have there.
Yeah, it's, sometimes it's nice if it's just a big swamp and nobody wants to develop there, or, there's other things.
Yeah, well, we've been told by the representatives of Eagle that they will issue a development permit for this
Mhm.
because they had already been prepared to issue a development permit back in 2008,
Mhm.
but then the real estate crash
Yeah,
happened, and so the developer didn't move forward, but they would have gotten a permit.
Right.
The state issues permits to destroy wetlands.
yeah,
You can't really have a good outcome by trying to regulate wetlands. You can only have a less bad outcome. So the state has unfortunately never come up with a program to acquire the properties that should never be built on.
right. Yeah.
Because they're afraid that if they don't issue a permit for any development, they would be liable to pay it for takings without compensation.
Right, right.
So my view is, well, you should prepare for that, and you should have a good fund to buy those lands, because the public interest should be put higher than the private interest. But that's politics.
Right, yeah. Someday we'll succeed.
Well, and that is a role that the land conservancies help play, because they can acquire land when it's available, because they typically can move faster than the government. And I know, like with this property, we're trying to get the DNR interested in it and using the Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund.
Yeah, we're trying to get DNR, Wayne County, and Brownstown Township, any one of those interested to purchase it. We've bought a few other properties before just to hold it, to get a trust fund grant. We've done that with Wayne County, Superior Township, and hopefully with this one, but we'll see.
Yeah. So you can go to savesibleyprairie.org if you want to learn more information. Is there any other questions for Jack Saylor?
So I've been to Sibley Prairie. I used to go all the time when I went to Wayne State University. And if you guys haven't stepped foot on the prairie, I will say it's an incredible place to forage mushrooms as well. It's not just for flowers or for the flora and fauna. It's also about our future, because we're losing, as you say, to urban sprawl, and we're losing it to industries that are wanting to build on this land. As you said, some of the parcels of the land are starting to maybe potentially be used for industrialization. So it's, again, I've stepped foot in this land, I've foraged mushrooms, I've eaten off of this land. It's incredibly important that we sit here and we actually talk to our neighbors and our friends and family members about this. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing this, and I'm really hoping we can reach our goal.
Well, we've got 1 year to do it, so our work is cut out for us.
Preserve called Sibley Prairie that can be visited.
Southeast Michigan Land.
Southeast Michigan, sorry, Land Conservancy.
Yeah, it's confusing with all the names. But,
Too many.
yeah, they have a 39-acre parcel that was given to them as part of the mitigation for a wetland loss. And there's about 2 acres of prairie on that side. Yeah, TNC has been helping restore that property, and they've expressed strong interest in helping to restore this property as well once we acquire it. So.
Yeah, and it's like Saylor was saying, it's not just about the prairie. I mean, it's a very important location too for migratory birds, because it's right along that Detroit River,
Right.
Migration corridor. And it's also very important just for like climate mitigation, stuff like that too. And access to outdoors. Like Jack said, this is one of the biggest undeveloped parcels of property left in Wayne County.
And it has a high percentage of wetlands that are remaining in Wayne County. There's about 158 acres of wetlands on this property. So it's important to protect it for that reason too. So.
Yeah. Great. Any other questions for Jack? Yeah. Oh my. Yeah, and you all have to forgive us for not having everyone on camera on Zoom.
Are there any other big conservancies in the conversation, like M&A, or there's definitely like a handful of them. It'd be nice if some of them got together and like,
Well, we have
collaborated to purchase.
Southeast Michigan Land Conservancy just recently joined. Legacy Land Conservancy has been helping a little bit. Thumb Land Conservancy has been involved quite heavily as well.
The Nature Conservancy Michigan chapter just gave us they just gave us a letter of support that's on the website for Sibley Prairie. And actually we're waiting to hear from Ducks Unlimited has been involved in it too. And they're doing a letter of support, trying to help us get the DNR interested. And SEMCOG, which is the South. Yeah, so we're actually expecting a letter from SEMCOG to come as well too. SEMCOG actually has an initiative right now to add 850,000 acres of wildland and parkland in southeastern Michigan. So they were really interested in this property because it is such a big chunk of land. Because, you know, when you're looking at having to add that amount of acreage, 10 acres at a time, it's going to take a long time. Any other questions, comments? No? So Chris, I actually am going to have you go now. Thank you, Jack. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, can you hear me? All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out in this freezing cold evening. You're gonna have to forgive me right off the bat. I have a bit of a cold and I have probably overdone it with the cold medication. So I just want to let you know right off the bat, I'm not drunk, but I'm under the influence of some NyQuil here. But probably a good night if you want to ask me to commit to something normally I wouldn't ordinarily agree to. So
Don't say that to me, Chris.
okay. All right. Well, I want to say, first of all, thank you for this guy. He has been an amazing help,
Thank you.
big support. So Chris Ward, Director of Oakland County Parks and Recreation. We have been in business or as an organization, as a government entity for 59 years. Next year is our big 60. And we have right now 15 county parks, but it's growing rather rapidly due to some things I want to go over with you tonight. Some new approaches that we're taking to expand our parkland. All right, we good?
Yeah, I think so.
I was appointed to this position about 4 years ago. Prior to that was Deputy County Executive, and then was Chief of Staff of the Board of Commissioners. And before that, I was a Deputy County Clerk. And before that, I was an elected official for a number of years. I was state representative and a township board member for 10 years before that. And before that, I was in high school. So I've been living off the government for a long time. So, Jack, I'm sorry on behalf of all of us in the world of government that we haven't gotten our act together in the world of conservation. But I got to say, everything that you shared about your background was pretty inspirational. So thanks for all you've done. It's been an education for me to learn about the trust fund and some of the challenges we have to actually conserve land that is at risk for development. Pretty hard, frankly. A lot of challenges there. Even sometimes when it's owned by another government entity, and they are considering selling off land, we've had to kind of go around the system, and it's taken a couple of tries to save some land that I want to share with you a little bit about. But let me just say, and I think I'm preaching to the choir here, obviously, but we all care about public lands, and the access to nature is I think, especially coming out of COVID, people have started to understand this is really essential civic and health infrastructure that supports all of us. And there are scientific studies after scientific studies that back all this up, but it's a key element in making healthier, happier people. Mental restoration. There's a great book I just read called Nature and the Mind. I don't know if any of you have seen that one. It's a really interesting study that sort of shows how we are just physically and mentally drained by how much screen time that we commit every day. And it creates this attention deficit in all of us, in sort of fatigue. And the most effective thing you can do to recover that is to get out into nature, and experience that sort of restorative environment. So when I think about all of the things that are sort of plaguing our society, nature, public lands are an answer across the board. And it's, it's frankly also a wonderful time for us to be making the case for public lands. I have to say, in my role, I have seen unprecedented support coming out of the pandemic and beyond for investments in public recreation, saving land, creating new parks, trails, green spaces. Should be a golden age for all of us. It's also obviously a key component in a climate resilience strategy. Green infrastructure, stormwater, flood capture and filtering. It's going to be key for all of us as we live with the new realities that we're all seeing in the world nowadays. Maintaining thriving ecosystems. And I like to, sometimes all of those things don't make a difference for some people. Some people are just sort of pocketbook oriented, but it is a big component in maintaining our property values, frankly. If you go on the major real estate websites nowadays, they have public education, public school scores. They have scores for all kinds of things. Now they have proximity to parks and those types of scores in there as well, because it's something people are looking for. I also want to note I believe it's the third fastest growing industry in Michigan is this outdoor recreation economy. So even if sometimes we can't make the case to people based on what's going to make them healthier and happier and promote a positive environment, sometimes we just need to make the case of how it affects their pocketbooks. I'm going to skip through some of this, but I want to go right to the Llewellyn Woofter Nature Preserve. And I know you all have been active in helping us preserve the reserve. It is much appreciated. It's been not an easy battle. It's not over yet. Still hopeful that we can turn things around there. Just a little background if you don't know all of it. Oakland Community College has maintained this campus at the Highland Lakes campus. So it's at Cooley Lake Road, Hospital Road, right at the border of West Bloomfield, Waterford Township, White Lake Township, and Commerce Township. Used to be the old county tuberculosis sanatorium. That's why it's on Hospital Road. And so in 1966, OCC was formed, and it was their first campus property. And it has flourished over the years. But, the world of community college has changed, as all of our worlds have. So much more online participation as opposed to on-site education experiences. So if you go there during the week, it's almost empty all the time. But what you will find there are people that love to use that campus for recreational purposes, walking their dogs, getting out into a really lovely area that is this Llewellyn Woofter Nature Reserve and experiencing nature. So they announced they were going to close this campus as a result of the declining on-site enrollment about 2 years ago. And immediately, a very large number of people who enjoy going to the campus started raising concerns. Over time, what's happened is, and here's Llewellyn. I saw some pictures of her on your protest signs earlier. She was a 30-year plus biology professor, and the reserve was named after her. She passed away because it was her outdoor classroom that she brought the kids out to do some hands-on learning at. There has been plenty of media coverage and public reaction in support of maintaining the campus. The southern part was broken off here, and Waterford Township passed a bond proposal. They're going to, they've purchased that portion except for a piece that's going to be commercial frontage, commercial real estate. So what we're talking about here is really the north part of it, and much of the forested area there. So after the township made its purchase, Oakland County Parks, frankly, because we had not really received a very warm reception from the college, just went ahead and made a public offer to just make it clear that we were interested in acquiring the property, in the entire north part of the campus here. And these two sections together. And then section A that's up there is owned by the Waterford School District. Oh, sure. Section B and C are owned by Oakland Community College, scheduled to be closed next year. And the fate of the property is still in question. There has been plenty of indications that the intention is to sell it for development. They requested and received approval by the township to rezone the property through the master plan. It hasn't been rezoned yet, but the master plan was changed for planned unit development. So they're sort of showing the future plan there. And they also changed in the master plan section A, which is owned by the Waterford School District, originally purchased to be the home of a high school that never was built. So as I said, Oakland County Parks made an offer last winter in January, gave them 90 days to respond based on an economic study, cost per acre. I think it was about $2.1 million that we offered for the sections B and C OCC property. And then we made a separate offer to the Waterford School District for section A, either to purchase it or to enter into a long-term agreement where we would operate and manage the property. They would remain their ownership, but we would, create some basic infrastructure there so it could be a public park, with the goal of having something that's really focused on Llewellyn's legacy of it being outdoor, hands-on, nature-based education, learning experiences. So OCC did not accept our proposal, but we were surprised positively that the school district did accept the second offer there, the second option, in passed an agreement for us to have a 30-year operating agreement. Everything was going pretty well with that until we run into a little bit of a park naming controversy, which is pretty frustrating that the name of a park could threaten what otherwise was a pretty positive win-win scenario where the school property would be made open for the public to enjoy, where you could preserve the natural features there and protect them. There is a school board member whose brother-in-law was a former public official. They're insistent that it be named after that individual. My parks commission that I answer to is very strongly opposed to naming parks after people, and have even avoided doing so when we've had beloved, public officials who have passed away in the past. So they're at loggerheads over it, and frankly, it's a pride issue. So I don't know how to find a compromise. We've offered to name, amenities, trails, parts of the park for that individual, but it's what I've found with elected officials, once they start getting prideful, it's really hard to get people back to the table talking reasonably with each other. So that has now put that section A part at risk that we thought had been settled. And we were hoping that by that being settled, then OCC would reconsider engage in some positive conversation about selling that property to us on the campus. So I do want to acknowledge, as I mentioned, Ken has been amazing, but I know all of you have been part of this and you've engaged your partner organizations. Media coverage is not what it used to be. Local journalism has just been eviscerated over the years as people have moved to social media and being able to get your news online for free. So, and now when they do post stories, half the time they're behind paywalls. So even if you post a story on your social media, people can't get to it. So what's making more of a difference is this one-on-one citizen action and getting directly to OCC's Board of Trustees and trying to build relationships to see if we can get them to reconsider. This has been publicly owned land for more than 100 years. And, we are just two different public agencies. And from the public standpoint, they're pretty frustrated because they don't really care about this kind of thing. It's been serving them. They want to continue to see it serve public needs in the future. So we're going to keep fighting and hoping that there's a change in direction there. And at the very least, hope to save the nature reserve portion of it, even if the rest of the campus is not safe. So thanks again for all your effort with this. I have to say, I've been in government a long time, as I mentioned. I am just sort of shocked that there isn't widespread outrage over this, that, what has been a nature reserve with signs all over, noting it as a nature reserve, in with all this media coverage. I just had expected there this to be politically untouchable and that they would have reconsidered by now. It just sort of goes to show that the ground has shifted in terms of the realities of our politics of right now. But it is a lovely, wonderful piece of property. I know you did a tour out there a little bit ago, right? Ken, is that correct?
Trying to wait for the microphone to come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, there was a public meeting on the 20th of last month. Is that right, Pete? So actually, Pete Ogg, who's one of our outing leaders, has led multiple hikes out there.
Mhm.
And we've incorporated both the school district property as well as the OCC property in the hikes. Hess Hathaway, which the township owns, that you could see us right next to it in the maps. There's a fence between the two, so we haven't really incorporated that in with the outings that we've done. But yeah, we did a hike right before that public meeting, and then we went to a public meeting. And actually, Pete, would you mind saying a few words about just the public meeting and what people said there? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Pete Ogg, Waterford Township. The public meeting was, we talked on the 18th of November to the Board of Trustees. And the Board of Trustees at OCC wanted some ground rules set for that public forum. And these ground rules basically covered that we could ask questions, we could get comments in there. And at the public forum, all we got was 30 representatives from OCC running our table, a dog and pony show. So with all the other information there, that we didn't get to ask a single question. Our input was subverted, so we couldn't ask questions.
Right.
I mean, and in spite of that, it was overwhelming. Everyone there, they had 30 tables where they had people kind of in focus groups that talked. And in spite of them controlling the narrative, pretty much 95% of all the comments and everything were about, we want to keep the preserve, want park space, that everyone was talking about anti-development, except for like one person who was probably specially invited and asked to be there. So yeah, it was overwhelmingly support to keep the preserve. And actually at the end of the meeting, Peter, who is their chancellor, he personally told me he was going to reach out and call you, Chris, about talking about selling to Oakland County Parks. Has he called yet?
No.
All right. So this is my promise that we're actually going to send an email to him following up and remind him that he said that to us.
Okay.
So
yeah, I just will say and I'll go through them in a minute. Partnerships with other government entities have sort of been our bread and butter, and we've done a ton of them in a short period of time. So we know how to navigate that, and we are not difficult to work with. If anything, it's quite the opposite. I have never experienced anything like the hostility of the local elected officials in Waterford and OCC as chancellor, which has really led me to believe there's been an agenda other than keeping it in public hands the whole time. So the only chance we've ever had to save this property is the spotlight that you all are bringing to it, your voices. Otherwise, they're definitely prone and inclined to selling it for some sort of development. They're doing this throughout their campus properties. They sold off their headquarters in Bloomfield Hills. And at their Orchard Ridge campus, they entered into a deal with Little Caesars to build a bunch of ice rinks there. So what they have told me is we're welcome to submit a bid in an open bid process, but they haven't followed that process with any of those other entities. And you know, if it is going to be an open bid process, the public's going to lose if price is the determining factor. But hey, I'll come back to the table as much as possible if it moves the dial on this.
So there was Amy had a question on Zoom
Mhm.
asking about the naming issue, and yeah, it's Waterford School District that they want the park named after a former superintendent, and that is the hang up out there in Waterford. She's also a resident of Waterford, and Chris, by the way, is a resident.
I
of
am a
Waterford.
resident, although they might repeal my homestead exemption. I'm not sure.
And then the other question, Ruth asked, what are they doing with the money? So when they sell this property, if they sell it to the county or they
Mhm.
sell it to development, that money will go back to the college. However, Pete told me an interesting thing the other day that he sat in on a board meeting where the chancellor was talking about how they have no economic challenges right now, that because of a recent what was it that was passed? Recent funding, because of a recent millage, they're quite fine into the foreseeable future financially, and so they're not dependent on this money for any of their programs or anything.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, the real story here is that they have decided to sort of move away from the general education focus, and they are building these pretty impressive specialty education facilities, culinary, law enforcement, sort of technical skills, that type of thing. And so if you Google Oakland Community College, you're going to get no shortage of stories about brand new facilities that they're building. So it is, I guess, maybe this philosophy of moving away from what was the original intention of community colleges, which was sort of general education opportunities, entry level for everybody. So I think that's the reality. But they do have a healthy millage. They have a millage. They have two different millages they put forward in different times, so people never know how much they're voting for their millages. And one is just for buildings and land maintenance, which one would think when that comes up, all of this selling off of property is going to lead to some pointed questions. Yeah, and on the Waterford School District thing, I think you handled that pretty well. There's a gentleman named Brian Whiston who was he was their president of their school board. He was not the superintendent there. He was a state superintendent briefly, very politically connected guy. But as I said, we just don't go down that route of naming parks after people. And we tried to find a way to make it a win-win scenario, but they were extremely hostile to my parks commissioners when we went to the meeting.
Well, and Pete and I were talking about that, and
Yeah.
we're going to suggest they go ahead and actually dedicate that property as a nature preserve and name it after that person, and they don't have to have Oakland County involved.
Yep, that's perfect.
Yeah.
You know, in the big picture, honestly, we were hoping that it would create this momentum effect for OCC to reconsider. You know, right now it's property that's not doing any harm. We're worried a little bit about that township master plan change, that it would be, more valuable. The school district might sell it off, but they've been very clear that's not their intention. So I guess we can take them at their word. For us to open that up as a park means we have to destroy some of what is wonderful there to create a parking lot, a bathroom, and make it accessible for people. Whereas, just going back and looking at the campus, here. I mean, this giant kidney-shaped parking lot right here should be more than enough parking if we were able to acquire it. And then not have to disturb the natural space there at Section 8. So that is where things stand with that right now. I appreciate that you'll be reminding Chancellor Provenzano that he has a phone call to make. I'll be waiting by my phone. So just a few other things. I know you've got more to talk about tonight, but one plea to all of you is that, you know, we have an abundance of public lands in Oakland County and wonderful natural resources. What really is our biggest challenge in achieving our goals here is we have such a fragmented system of government in this state, between local units of government, layers of government on top of that, so many different jurisdictional hands in the pot. It's very hard for progress to be made. If we try at Oakland County Parks to put a lot of emphasis on trying to get beyond this, because as we all know, natural spaces, you know, wildlife corridors, rivers, lakes, even pedestrian trailways, those don't really respect anybody's boundaries. But it is very hard for us to move forward in a meaningful way because our government structures are really sort of set up not to incentivize us to work together. I have to say it's pretty hard because you've got you know, legal agreements, meetings after meetings after meetings to get these things set up. You need to have trust and relationship building between elected officials. And then we end up with these pride and turf issues, just like this naming thing that we're running into. And it takes a long-term commitment with leaders who make it a priority. But if we're going to have meaningful action on these environmental issues that we care about, the only way for it to be effective is if we're doing it on a regional basis. And what tends to happen more than anything else is we'll get everybody together, we'll write a beautiful plan, everybody gets excited, and that plan goes up on the shelf, and it never comes back down again. And that's very frustrating. This is how we break through at Oakland County Parks. It's partnerships, 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 partnerships. We are always looking for ways to work with somebody else to leverage something that already exists or their resources with our resources to stretch them farther and make more things happen. One we're particularly proud of, we all remember the American Rescue Plan that came about after the COVID pandemic, sort of the second big amount of federal money that came out to support local activities, local governments. With the leadership of our county executive and board members, we were able to secure $15 million of the county's $240-some million that they received to create this Healthy Communities Urban Park Revitalization Plan. Oakland County Parks put $5.2 million of our money into it. You know, park funding, if you spread it out evenly amongst everybody, doesn't go very far at all. So what we did is zeroed in really on 5 communities in the county that had been historically underserved, had financial challenges, have properties that are deteriorating, long-term, you know, financial challenges that really have tied their hands to deal with it, and leaned in heavier in those communities in a more meaningful ways, and insisted on it being things that can be sustained after this one-time federal influx of money. It's so as a result, we've been out spending this $20 million building and revitalizing playgrounds, and bringing back some of these forgotten gems that really needed some more love. And part of that also, as well as it's given us a chance as a county park system. We have beautiful parks in northern Oakland County, beautiful parks in western Oakland County. Not a lot of park acreage where people live in the southeast part of the county or the central part of the county. But all the folks in the county pay the taxes that pay my salary and make it possible for us to do what we do. So we've entered into multiple long-term partnerships where we are taking over the management and operations of existing municipal parkland that needed, that kind of investment in it. And then we'll be there as well to maintain what's being built right now over the long term. It has gotten us out of this box that we have been in forever where we say, well, there's no land left there anymore. So there's nothing we can do about it. So, the Belle Isle style agreement that was done there between the DNR and the city that's really brought that park back has been a good model for us to follow, which we have in the city of Pontiac, Oak Park, Southfield, Madison Heights, and then have expanded even beyond that as we start looking at the next group of communities. So this would not be so much an urban revitalization project, but another way that we've been leveraging partnerships. So Turtle Woods is in Troy, city of Troy, property owned by the Troy School District for years. They had decided to sell off their excess property. This is really one of the last unique, untouched natural spaces left in Troy. And so we had been trying for the last 5 years to acquire this property. The DNR trust fund process does not work well to try to save property, especially in an area that has higher property values and higher incomes. So our first attempt did not succeed. And because they have this public to public prohibition of selling, buying publicly owned land by another entity, we had to have Six Rivers Land Conservancy act as the intermediary, and we're paying interest while they're holding on to the property. Finally, this last year, we did succeed in getting the funding through the trust fund board, and then we had to wait till the state budget crisis resolved itself, but it has. And we're hoping our appropriation is all set, and we're going to close on that property real soon and create a really wonderful natural park area there in the city of Troy, one of our densest populated areas of the county. So that's the success story. And it was also because the school district was willing to work with us. They did not insist on the appraised value. They brought the value down, which allowed us to meet the trust funds and standards and get us over the line to get them to approve it. Clinton River Oaks is our latest good news. If you're familiar with where Yates Cider Mill is, over at DeQuinder and Letica Drive in Rochester Hills area there. It's a beautiful piece of property. I have to say, it's fantastic. There was 127 acres that was owned by a commercial industrial business there that they had up for sale. The Great Lakes Fisheries Commission had kind of put it on our radar because it is a key control point for the sea lamprey. And over time, as that river has gotten, dealt with deluges of, 100-year rainstorms every year. So new channels have been created. And so the sea lamprey were finding their way around that. So they were being frustrated trying to get a project okayed by this company to go in there and correct that and get the sea lamprey back under control. So with our millage initiative passing last year, it's given us funding to do some things we wouldn't ordinarily be able to do. And one was buy this property. So we've successfully negotiated and are closing on this 127-acre property. In the park itself sits right on the border of Rochester and Rochester Hills. And because of that, it's sort of a no man's land. Bloomer Park is just to the south of it, and that's a former state park, lovely city park now. And so we entered into an agreement with Rochester Hills for the 108 acres that's bounding the south part of this property we're buying for us to operate and manage that. And then Rochester City owned 48 acres that they're doing nothing with, and we entered an agreement with that. So whenever we do these things, if we don't have to spend money on land acquisition, we could put the money into improving the property and stewardship. A lot of invasive species issues along here. We're going to have some big stewardship challenges. It's also an area that would be really great for kayaking and access, but because the river has like a 400-foot drop between Pontiac and there, it's not the safest place. And they've actually had a few deaths at the dam there by Yates Cider Mill. Heritage Park, if anybody you're familiar with Heritage Park in Farmington Hills, tremendous park. The city's a little overstretched with their financial obligations in the area of recreation. They bought a former high school and created what's called the Hawk, and it's a great indoor recreation facility, but it's put a lot of demands on their system. And so Heritage Park, we've entered into an agreement with the city in sort of to bring it into our county park system. And it'll be a great addition. It's a way for us to be present in the community, and it's actually will be our most visited park on day one, just based on the amount of usage of that park. It's already, serving a regional area. MSU Extension in Oakland County had been around for more than 100 years. They do fantastic work. They were basically on the chopping block to lose all of their funding, and really were in danger. So we started discussions with them several months ago and decided that we are much better working together. So we have taken them on, and they're now part of Oakland County Parks. And it's just a great, partnership situation here where they can bring their strengths together with us. They can offer their programming at our facilities. We're just better off together. So more to come on that, because we're sort of figuring that out as we go. And then we've got these facilities, Bowers School Farm and Johnson Nature Center. Anybody know Bowers School Farm and Johnson Nature Center? They're in Bloomfield. This is an unusual situation where it's sort of a legacy of a school district from pre-proposal A, when they had a millage that supported recreation type things that they've long been prohibited from collecting. And so their beloved, well-utilized facilities in Bloomfield Township, which is actually the biggest park desert in Oakland County, because there's just not public parkland there. So they're easy to convert into park properties. And so we have been working with the school officials towards getting to a partnership agreement where we could sort of activate them for recreational purposes and be involved in the stewardship of those. It's also just like a great nature learning and farm learning opportunity. The more school field trips we can get out to these facilities and to get the kids beyond Bloomfield, frankly, both of them are within 1.5 miles of the city of Pontiac, but barely any Pontiac school kids find their way there. So by having them be part of our park system and expanding, who they're serving, we should be able to make some pretty big gains in terms of school field trip experiences. And so that's exciting for us. And we're hoping in the next couple of months, we'll have some sort of formal legal agreement that will secure the future of these facilities and allow them to come within our park system. I will say, one of the things that's important in Oakland County, because disparities are real, frankly, and we can sit and look at a map with a bunch of green blobs on it, say that's all parkland. But in reality, you get a city like Pontiac that was at one point the engine of economic activity in the county, and has a legacy park system that now is very difficult for them to sustain. We try to work very closely with communities in our urban core areas to make sure that existing public land is accessible for everybody. It's a safe place with, maintenance, basic amenities, restrooms, and where everybody feels welcomed and belongs. And so Pontiac Oaks was our first endeavor down this road. It was called Hawthorne Park. I had some other pictures that I was going to share with you tonight. I didn't get a chance to, but the city gave us a week, gave us the keys to take over the park. And so we did so. This park has been the scene of some very negative activity over the years, from bodies being dumped there, it being well known as a place to go for transactions that are not, things that any of us would like to see in a public space. I took a sign out of there that I have in my office, a do not enter sign that's riddled with bullet holes. And that was 500 feet from the playground. So we've taken it over and are putting in a couple $1 million into bringing it back. It's on it's on Krieger Lake by Upper Silver Lake. We've also spent, a significant amount of money with invasive species control and restoring the shoreline and the fish habitat there. And it's a beautiful park now, and it's on its way to being even more beautiful park. So, we think these types of endeavors are just as important as trying to acquire additional parkland in other areas of the county. And it just sort of shows that there's chances for us to bring some of these neglected gems back to life again. So we're going to have a great opening there in the spring. We've also, learned that I have to say I'm meeting with some of the Pontiac elected officials, and one of the things that I really was impactful to me is just sort of learning how they interpret and feel about nature. It isn't always necessarily a positive connotation when you grow up and live in a community where it doesn't feel safe, where parks aren't well maintained. And so there's a hesitancy to sort of embrace saving natural spaces because of that. And there's also sometimes not the family histories that some of us have, of going camping and that type of thing. So we've started really trying to expand our entry system by providing things like we have a campground up at Groveland, Oaks up in Groveland Township. And we work with Pontiac to, identify families that have never had a camping experience. And we give them a chance to go out for the weekend for free and give them some programming. This is sort of their first chance to experience it. And that is something we want to just do more and more, whether it's fishing, camping, archery, whatever the case may be. Start to build that familiarity and desire to want to be outdoors. Because, if you could change, especially a young person's, perception of the outdoors, spark a sense of wonder and mystery, then that'll change the whole trajectory of their life. And maybe they'll go home, mom and dad around the kitchen table and say, let's go there this weekend. This is a place where, that you would like to, and we're welcome there. So with that, I think I can wrap up right now by just saying there is a great opportunity here. We put a village on the ballot last year that the political folks all were pretty skeptical about. We've had this almost same village level for 50 plus years. And it was never enough money to either maintain what we had or to take on the responsibility of trying to expand so we're serving everybody. And because we are 100% self-supporting, if we didn't pass our millage, we close up shop, we go out of business. There's always been a certain shyness to going out and asking the public for more. And we did ask for a little bit more in 2020, and same amount of support came behind that. But we knew coming out of the post-pandemic period, that was a big influx of federal money that was not going to be there anymore. That's one-time money. So how do we keep the momentum going? We wanted to go back to the voters, and so we did some polling. And the depth of support in Oakland County for investment in public recreation is so deep, and I can't overstate it. I mean, more than 75% to 80% said great parks are really key and essential to their way of life. We asked if we increased it a little bit more, would you change your vote? Or we increased it a little bit less, would change your vote? Didn't change it at all. And we got beat up pretty good by if you, judging by social media, you would have thought the thing would have failed. Detroit News editorial against it. A lot of the media coverage was not terribly favorable. Some of it's just like the lack of high quality journalism anymore. You get these folks that are writing articles now that are doing a sort of like a hobby. And so they don't even know how a millage works. So I had like the Oakland Press times the average impact by 1,000% in their article. And I thought, oh God, this is going to be miserable. I'm going to have people beating down my door saying, why are you trying to raise my taxes by $6,000 rather than $60? But as it turned out, they had very little impact. And even in this polarized political environment, it passed in every single precinct in the county, whether they're Trump people or Harris people, except for 3 up in the far, northern corner of the county. So this is a good moment for all of us that care about public lands. People have a really strong appetite. Our sales continue to be remarkably strong from all, golf courses to campgrounds across the board. People are hungry for outdoor recreational opportunities. I know I ran a little bit long, so I get paid by the word. So I think I
We're
probably
gonna have to pass another millage to pay for this.
Yeah,
talk.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Well, maybe I can get it in Wayne County while I'm here.
Well, so one of the things you mentioned was the Clinton River,
Mhm.
the trail expansion. So I want to bring our next speaker up, Sage.
Okay.
And she's from the DNR. And one of the things that I've done, because I am the outings chair here for Southeastern Michigan, but I am also co-chair for the state of Michigan's outings committee. And so one of the things that I've done is I started attending some trails advisory council meetings. And I got to hear Sage talking about some of the things that they're doing in Southeastern Michigan. So when we were planning this meeting, I'd reached out to see whether or not she could come and speak. So I was excited to have her. And then we'll take some more questions at the end for Chris and Sage and stuff.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sage Hegdel. I'm the trail specialist for Southeast Michigan with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. So there are 8 people who do my job throughout the state, 3 up in the Upper Peninsula and then 5 in the Lower Peninsula. So my region is all of Southeast Michigan. And Ken asked me to talk tonight about the Gordie Howe Bridge as one of the initiatives that we have going on. So I'll talk mainly about that and then about a few other things that we have going on in the region. Then obviously take any questions that you may have. So the DNR established an MOU with 4 organizations back in 2022 when we were aware that the Gordie Howe Bridge Authority was going to be building a multi-use pathway over the bridge. We thought that was a great opportunity to connect with some of our partners in Windsor and work together to provide opportunities for people to cross the bridge and experience Detroit and experience Windsor. So the 4 organizations are the Trans-Canada Trail, the Waterfront Regeneration Trust Corporation, and they oversee the Great Lakes Waterfront Trail, the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan, who oversees the Great Lakes Way, and then the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. So we have an MOU in place to collaborate on the experiences, the promotion, the wayfinding, and joint programming for the multi-use trail. So this is an overview of how this bridge will connect all 4 of those trails. So you can see the black trail is part of the Trans-Canada Trail. That's on the Canadian side, this dark blue or black. And then the Great Lakes Waterfront Trail is this light blue trail that goes around the Great Lakes on the Canadian side. And then the bridge connects with the Great Lakes Way, which is this green trail, and the Iron Bell Trail, which is this brown one. So it's pretty cool that that bridge is connecting all of these miles of trails. If you're not familiar with the Trans-Canada Trail, it's over 18,000 miles across Canada. It's the biggest trail system in the world. So cyclists and pedestrians will be able to cross the bridge, and there will be a processing building for customs on both sides, the Canadian and the US. So you can see this is a concept plan of how they're planning to do the customs building and how the pathways connect in with the bridge. So you can see with the number 2, that goes up to the pedestrian cyclist processing building and then across the bridge. That's on the Canadian side. And then on the United States side, it's very similar. There are pathways around the area. And then you can look at number 1 and 3, and those connect up into the bridge to be able to cross it. There will be no fee for crossing the bridge. So you'll be able to walk or bicycle from Detroit to Windsor. And so we're talking about a lot of ideas of what people can experience by crossing the binational bridge. We're talking about destination experiences, so architecture tours, open air market tours, beer and wine tours, cultural tours, historical tours, and conservation tours. So looking at all the different things that might bring people over to the Detroit area and what they can enjoy while they're here. And then we're also looking at some long haul bicycle routes. So you can see in the green here, this is just conceptual where the bicycle routes will go across the bridge. And then you can see one will come down south and then go up through Point Pelee and back up into Windsor. And then we're also talking about one that goes up through Alconac to Walpole Island and then back around to Windsor. The southern route, I believe, is complete or almost complete. And that should be announced before the ferry season in 2026. So that should be open for the 2026 cycling season. We're also looking at bicycle-friendly business designations. So businesses in the Detroit and Windsor areas that are friendly to bicycle tourists. We're looking at getting our digital maps updated to include all of this information, and then also wayfinding on both sides. So we're working with our Canadian partners to do those signs, both educational and wayfinding. So that's an overview of the Gordie Howe Bridge multi-use pathway. And then we have some other major trail systems and projects that we're doing in the area that I just thought I'd update you on. We have many trail systems, so I just listed some of them here. You can see, are you all familiar with the Great Lake to Lake Route 1? That's a trail system that goes from Lake Michigan over to Lake Huron. So it completely crosses the state east to west. And then we have the Iron Bell Trail, which is both this blue hiking route and then this brown bicycle route. If you're familiar with the Iron Bell Trail, it's about 2,000 miles in Michigan, and it's about 73% complete. So we still have gaps in that trail system. And then there's many other trail systems. We have the Joe Louis Greenway, the Michigan Airline Trail, the West Bloomfield Trail, the Clinton River Trail. So all of these are parts of our trail system in the region. And as Chris mentioned, we partner with many different municipalities, counties, friends groups. We do not own all of the property that these trail systems go through, but we have to, it's very important that we're partnering with all of our partners for the maintenance and operation of all of these trail systems. So one of the projects that we're working on right now is a preliminary engineering project for the Pollyant Trail. Anyone familiar with the Pollyant Trail? Okay. It's about 37 miles. It goes through Oakland County and Lapeer County, about 17 miles in Oakland County and 20 miles in Lapeer. The Oakland County section has been developed since the early 2000s. The Lapeer County section has never been developed. So the Oakland County section is at its useful life. There are things that are not up to code that we need to update. And Lapeer County would really like to see the trail developed. So I have two different pictures here. One is just to show the types of updates that we need in Oakland County. You can see this is a trailhead here and it has steps up to the trail. So that is not ADA compliant and we need to fix things like that in Oakland County, as well as many crossings and just things that need to be put in to make it a safer route. And then in Lapeer County, the trail is right here. We keep it mowed at just a basic level of maintenance, but it has never been developed. And so all of the municipalities along the Lapeer County section, well, I shouldn't say all, most of them are really wanting this developed for their communities. So we expect this project to be about $1 million just for the engineering portion of it. And then that's preliminary to the construction. So this is the design, and then we would go into construction. So we just started this project, and we expect this to be about 18 months to get this design process completed. And then another trail that we just completed, this is a Jackson County project, but part of the Mike Levine Lakeland State Trail. You can see in the picture here that there's a gap through Jackson. And so we're always trying to find ways to fill these gaps and to connect these trails. So this connector trail was just completed through Jackson, and that connects the Mike Levine Lakelands Trail with the Falling Waters Trail. And you can just kind of see on the map where that's located through Jackson and Stockbridge area out in Jackson County. So we're very happy to have that connection complete. Another project we're working on is the Mayberry State Park Mountain Bike Trail. And this is a redesign and really a rebuild of a lot of it. And one of the things that we talk about when we're talking about trails is sustainability. And you can see in these photos that there are some issues if you know what to look for. One is that you really want to keep water off the trail. So if you build a trail in a way that doesn't drain the water the way it needs to be, then erosion occurs and you start to have different problems. So you can see on this trail, the water is just coming straight down here and it's cupping. So you can see how the trail is going like this instead of being a flat surface. And so when it does that, the water also carries all of that sediment to wherever it's going. So that could be a wetland or, a low spot. Sometimes you just end up with like a big pile of sand at the bottom of the hill. So that's an issue. And then you can see over here, a similar type of thing is happening, but this has trees in it. And so you have these tree roots here. And that also isn't great for the surrounding trees on the trail. So building trails in a sustainable way protects the trees and the other plants in the area. And those are the types of things that we're looking at when we're rerouting these trails. So at Mayberry, we are rerouting a lot of this trail to make it more sustainable to last, many years into the future. We are also developing a new state park in Flint. So you can see on these different colored areas where the properties are. So this is an agreement between the state and Genesee County. So Genesee County is actually managing this park. The state owns it. And we are also working on getting some trails in that area, both hiking and mountain biking. And then the Clinton River Trail. There was a washout in July of 2024. So you can see here that in 2023, the trail came through, and in 2024, it was completely washed out by the pressure of this water on the north side. So that's an issue. It damaged about 150 feet of the trail that needs to be rebuilt. So again, this is the city of Rochester, and they own this property. But it's also part of the Iron Bell Trail, so the DNR has an interest in it, and we are supporting the project in any way we can, including some funding to try to get that fixed. So these are some of the issues that just kind of happen that we have to deal with when they come up. All right, and then we also just completed a paved multi-use trail on Belle Isle. This is the southern terminus of the Iron Bell, so we're excited about that. But the trail now goes all the way around the island, so you're able to walk or bike or rollerblade on that trail. So that's an exciting improvement to get that done. And then one of the things that we've really been focused on in the trails unit this year is the Northern Michigan ice storm. So if you don't know, last March at the end of the month, there was a major ice storm up north. It damaged so much. It was just devastating. Did anyone see the damage in person? I mean, it's hard to imagine unless you see it in person. A lot of trees were just broken off. The tops of trees had fallen everywhere. That ice storm closed about 3,200 miles of trails that the DNR oversees. So we've been spending pretty much every week, every month since then, trying to get that cleaned up. So we were substantially complete with that as of November 14th. So all of our trails are now open, which we are very excited about. But you can just see some of the damage here. So the trail is here, which you would never know by looking at all of these trees. And again, I mean, this is everywhere. The trail is here. It's just impassable. So we had people and equipment up there working all summer long, all fall, just trying to get everything open for all users, including snowmobile trails, ORV trails, as well as our non-motorized trails. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention that Ken asked me to talk about is the Trail Ambassador program that the Trails Unit is developing. And that's a program where volunteers, people who use trails can assist the DNR in doing like trail inspections. If you are on a trail on a regular basis, you probably know that trail better than some of the staff do if it's in a park. And we oversee almost 14,000 miles of trails, and we have a very small group of people overseeing that many miles of trails. So we very much depend on our volunteers. We do have a lot of volunteers, but one of the things that we're looking to do is the Trail Ambassador program, where people who use the trails can assist the DNR in reporting on maintenance, kind of doing trail inspections, reporting if you see any issues. And then that way the DNR can address any issues that you see, because it's very hard for our small staff to get out on that many miles of trail. So
my hope is as they launch that program, we can get our outings leaders involved in doing it.
yeah.
So Jane, did someone online have a question?
Someone in the chat asked, how would the bikes get to Point Pelee? There's no ferry.
It was my understanding that there was a ferry, but I will check into it and make sure. Yeah, the announcement for the route should be coming out fairly soon. I know that they would have looked at all of that, and that's being done by the Detroit Greenways Coalition and the Waterfront Regeneration Trust. So they're working together to determine that route. So that should be coming out soon, and I suspect that would answer that question.
How is it on? Okay. Before we finish, there's a question for Jack too. I don't want to interrupt her questions, but before we leave.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention, I saw that there's a hike coming up at Bald Mountain. So we have another project there connecting Bald Mountain Recreation Area to the Paint Creek Trail with a bridge. So it's a very small project, but hopefully connecting more trails and people to recreation areas. And at Proud Lake, where I saw that you also have a hike coming up, we just rerouted one of the trails. It had, when we were talking about sustainability, one of the trails was going through a wetland, and that is not sustainable, and also not good for the ecosystem. So we were able to reroute that to a ridge around the wetland. So there's a new reroute there as well. So those are the types of things that we're looking at in the trails unit. When we're looking at our trails that have issues and how we can build trails in a more sustainable way.
And I just led a hike at Maybury. You were
okay.
talking about, and I helped build some of the trails there when I was in Boy Scouts.
Okay.
Jane, were there any other questions online?
For Jack.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and read it?
Someone asked, with regard to raising money for the Sibley Prairie, are homeowners in the bordering neighborhoods supportive?
Well, the only thing we've heard is very strong support from a lot of the neighbors and people that live in Brownstown Township. So we're getting some donations from them. So always use more support though.
I think it was Chris that was saying in his presentation that having local parks and parkland property actually increases property values. And actually when developments go in, especially if they're at a higher density, they can reduce property values. So lots of times the local people are very supportive. And by local, I mean the people that border it. Like, if there's, like my father-in-law lives in Ann Arbor and his backyard backs up to a farm field. He would hate if that was developed. So it's always a balancing act. Were there any questions in here for Chris, Jack, or Sage?
Hey Sage, are you guys gonna open up the grant cycle for trails again this year, or like what's that looking like? I mean, you had sent me something, I think in the middle of last year. I was just curious.
I think what I sent you was for the Michigan Health Endowment Fund. As far as I know, they do that annually. So as soon as I see that open up again, I'm happy to share. And then we also have the DNR grants that are available as well.
Any other questions? So did you guys like this format, this meeting? Was this a good meeting? I'm hoping to actually make this maybe annual, where we bring in speakers to talk about parklands and wildlands, kind of something that our outings committee would like to do. So, all right, great. Well, thank you everyone for coming tonight.